Hello and welcome to the fourth episode of What Our Parents Said by the Woodsmen. I am Jack Woods. With me, as always, is Mr. Landon Wood after a fun-filled weekend here at the DePaul chapter of the Delta Upsilon fraternity. Landon, how has your Monday been, sir?
It's been all right. Getting back into the groove, It's a Monday, so you gotta start strong. You gotta start pulling the punches.
Back to be back at it, as it were.
Oh yeah.
Alrighty. Please excuse the ladies in the background if you hear them. Landon and I hear them. They are very apparent. They are the chefs for the house, and they are making a lot of noise.
Great ladies.
Great ladies making a lot of noise.
Provide all of the food.
Oh wow. How much food did they bring in today, bud? Just slamming doors.
Something like 7
Jesus
door
Christ.
slams.
Well, to get things started off, Landon and I recognize that the show has been quite morbid up to this point. We've talked about fear, control, and shame. Not exactly happy topics. So today we're going to venture into happiness. Happiness.
Woo!
Landon, what did your parents teach you about happiness?
At first, they taught me that happiness was something that you work for. So happiness is something that you achieve in yourself. And then, as I got older, they started to tell me that happiness is kind of fleeting. Like, happiness is something that changes and that you work with throughout life. And that happiness isn't exactly... happiness isn't permanent. Nothing is permanent. No emotion is permanent. So, enjoy happiness while you have it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. My future and father-in-law told me that when things are going great, when you're happy, stay calm, it'll pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom's advice, one of her slogans was, "This too shall pass." No matter what you're going through, this too shall pass. So that's happiness, anger, sadness, achievement, disappointment. It all is just going to pass eventually.
So how does that relate to happiness? Is it reasonable to expect people to be happy, or at least to put on a happy face?
I feel like faking happiness is definitely not something that somebody should do. I think of the "I'm fine" type phrase when I think of putting on a happy face. And I kind of just get, when I think of happiness in that sense, I get high school, really sad teenager vibes on just yeah, I was really good at putting on a fake smile every day. I'm like, wow, that's extremely depressing. Talk about your emotions. So I don't ever want to hold myself or somebody else to the accountability of being happy. I don't want to force somebody to fake an emotion to please the other people around them or to please themselves. But at the same time, if you're happy, I'm so happy for you. I could be having an absolutely shitty day and I could see somebody just laughing at a joke or at smiling with their friends and be like, man, that's awesome. That brings a smile to my face. So,
wow, we're kind of two sides of the same coin, because whenever I see people laughing, I'm like, I want to take your joy and put it in me. All right, that's what I want to do.
Put that sunshine in a bottle and keep it.
Yeah.
It's mine now.
It's mine now. You don't get
You're
to...
not allowed.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but it's also interesting that happiness can spread like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting, seeing somebody else be happy can just make you at least slightly joyful for a second or two.
It is a very infectious and debilitating emotion, in my opinion. Happiness.
Wow. Debilitating? Explain.
Well, happiness provides that little bit of relief that we're all looking for in a constant series of life throwing shit after shit after shit at you. And happiness provides that temporary little brief moment of, oh, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
It's life's pain reliever.
No, man, but I do believe, like you said, that happiness is temporary, and you shouldn't strive to be happy all of the time. You shouldn't look to be happy. You shouldn't expect yourself to be happy all of the time, because it's going to create unrealistic expectations through no fault of your own. You're going to have this mindset, I have to be happy. I have to do things that make me happy. I always have to be happy. It's not true. Sometimes you're not supposed to be happy. Sometimes you're not supposed to smile. It's okay to admit that.
It's okay to not be okay.
It's okay to not... Well, that's a big point.
That's something my stepdad said a lot. It's okay to not be okay.
People talk about happiness like it's a revolutionary concept. Like it's the greatest thing that God has bestowed upon us. Happiness isn't something you should strive for, in my opinion. I think happiness is something that you should acknowledge, that you should feel, and that you should let go as soon as you can.
Wow, that's a little bleak. Why do you think you should let go of it as soon as you can?
Because it creates a false sense of reality in your mind. I'm not always happy, and I'm perfectly fine with saying that. I'm not necessarily happy when I'm doing things that are supposed to make me happy. Sometimes that's part of the process. When I get to the 30th minute editing the podcast and I really just want to eat something, I'm not exactly happy in that moment. Am I happy that we get to sit down for 50 minutes whenever we so choose and upload something whenever we so choose? Is that something that makes me happy? Absolutely. And I love this feeling of euphoria that I'm getting. However, I understand that you're eventually going to go back to your room. You're eventually going to go to sleep. We're going to part ways. That happiness will not remain. But I'm going to hold on to it, at least for a little bit, acknowledge it, recognize it, and then let it go. And the next happy thing will be a pleasant surprise.
So with that, as you've aged and grown and changed, how has your happiness changed?
I always wanted to be happy when I was younger. Always wanted to be happy, always looking for happiness, always wanting to do things that made me happy, and was very, very, very upset when I was made to do something that didn't make me happy. Now I understand doing something that doesn't make you happy is part of the process. Doing something that you don't want to do, something that doesn't make you happy, is part of life.
The more we say happy, the weirder I realize that word is. Happy. There's not many words like happy.
No,
it's kind of like hoppy, but how often do you hear hoppy?
I don't hear hoppy a whole lot.
It's just like a prestigious...
Have you been hanging around Peter Rabbit recently?
I mean, people who really like craft beer say hoppy a lot, but that's the only thing I've heard.
Yeah, but who the hell likes craft beer? Like
my parents.
Like that's a personality trait for your parents?
Yes. Liking
craft beer.
To the extent that they go to breweries together to check out craft beer.
Actually, I'll say this. Alcohol is the perfect representation of happiness.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, because you got to go through a process just to get to what you're going for, and then it slowly trickles away as the night goes on.
Wow. Yeah, my definition for happiness is a lot different. Yeah.
Sorry, I am battling depression.
You're fine.
And I'm really wanting to get out of it. But at the same time, it's like, that's where some of the best jokes have come from, in my opinion. Some of the best things I've ever told have just come from places of not happy.
I don't know if that's necessary to be funny. Like, the depressed artist is not necessary to be a good artist. It may be just because some people want to latch onto it. Like, kind of like some people think that alcohol is something they need to be a good writer. Well, you don't. It actually may be destructive. Like, you don't need alcohol. You don't need depression. But it, like...
Who's writing on booze, man?
A lot of people.
No kidding.
Really, yeah. Like, a lot of Stephen King's, he was an addict to a lot of different things, and that's when a lot of his, like, It, and... I mean, reading them, you could tell, like, man, this guy was not on a sober headspace.
Either that, or he's really messed up in the head.
Yes and yes. But, I mean... aren't we all? But, everybody has their muse, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But I think recognizing it and not thinking that it's necessary is an important part of the process.
Well, I wanted to talk about this next topic in the next podcast, but I strive for joy. Joy is very different than happiness.
Let's save that for the next one, then.
Let's save that for the next one.
How can you tell if somebody is happy? And how do you tell if you are happy? Like, what is happiness to you?
What is happiness to me? Happiness to me is doing this. Happiness to me is playing video games. Happiness to me is having all of our brothers in the room watching Star Wars together. Happiness is that temporary feeling, that thing that we go to at the end of the day. That's what happiness is to me. What's happiness to you?
Happiness for me is more like almost a gratitude. So like a gratitude for myself or a respect for an achievement. I think happiness is also really weird for me because it's changed so much over time. Like I don't know if I'm not happy anymore or if I simply feel happiness in a much different way than I used to. So like when I was younger, I definitely had those moments where I was like super happy, like I'm super happy to see somebody, or it's a fleeting moment of positivity. Like it's almost a color. Like it's almost oh, what color would happiness be? What color do you think happiness would be to you?
A light blue. A light blue. There's something very peaceful about it.
I'd say like a super. This is an interesting mix, but like a light green, light blue, for me.
Yeah,
would be like a happiness.
That color kind of reminds me of the morning. Color kind of reminds me of when I'm already up, when I've gotten past the grogginess, when the clouds have disappeared and the sun's shining on my face. I look at the sky and it's typically a very light bluish greenish color.
I guess, yeah, for happiness to me is when I'm going through like a really hard assignment, or I'm working really hard on this piece, or I've been practicing for hours, and all of a sudden I feel like I've been walking in a cloudy day all day, and then all of a sudden I walked far enough that this clouds parted and the sun like hit me. All of a sudden I'm like, oh my god, this is beautiful. This is amazing. And then the clouds kind of close back in, and you're like, okay, that was my fleeting happiness. That's awesome. Let's keep on going.
You understand we're saying the same things. I just have a more negative approach to it.
Yeah. I know. I think something that makes me really happy is nature.
Yeah. I've never been in nature and thought I would really like to get out of nature right now.
Yeah. I mean, even like the worst, like even if I'm knee deep in snow and I feel like my fingers are going to fall off, I'd still rather be doing that than be inside.
Would you say happiness acts more as a relief or just something that you feel? Because to me, happiness is a relief. Happiness is just that brief ibuprofen, delay the pain for as long as you can, or, put it off, or here's something to distract you from something else. So, using your example, if I were to work on, say, I don't know, psychology all day on Monday, September 14th, 2020. If you were just to devote that entire day to psychology, once you get done with all of that work...
That's very specific.
Yes. That was my day today. So, now that I'm done with all of that work, I feel this sense of...
Yeah.
Finally, I'm not having to do that work anymore. And that's what happiness is to me. Just that brief little boop. No more pain for right now.
I guess it's a means to an end. I wouldn't necessarily say that I've actually gotten to the point where I don't expect happiness at all. Like
it's a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I don't look for it. I make sure not to look for it. Just because when it does hit, I'm like, okay, cool, that's dope. Like, I'll enjoy it while it's lasting, and then when it's gone, I'm like, it just kind of spaces my mind. I don't remember that I actually felt happiness for a second.
In the MLB, what they teach their hitters and their pitchers, never get too high, never get too low. So if you are riding a hot streak and you're playing really well, it's gonna come to a screeching halt here in a second. I feel like when you strive for happiness and when you want to be happy, you are going to be constantly let down. Happiness isn't something that you should look for. Happiness, this is a dark, morbid podcast, everybody. I don't know what else to say about it. Like, this is just a really dark opinion, but happiness isn't something that you should... I won't say happiness is something that you should want, but happiness is something that you definitely, like you said, should not expect.
Well, if you constantly expect yourself to be happy, then you're going to be disappointed when you don't. It's like expecting to get $100 every week for something you don't put all your time into, or that you don't really control. Like, ooh, I expect to win the lottery at least one time a year, and you're like, well, expecting it to happen is going to make you more disappointed than if you were just you would try and then you would win the lottery and be like, oh my God, I didn't expect this. This is awesome.
The absence of expecting happiness has made my life a lot more manageable. Did you have that same experience?
Yeah. And I think where we should put emphasis is that it's the expectation of happiness, not happiness itself. Having happiness is a great thing.
Without a doubt.
And you should be appreciative and enjoy being happy when you can. But the more that I find myself expecting to be happy, the more I find myself with opportunities to let myself down.
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of opportunities to let yourself down if you are striving for happiness only. And that's where I defer. That's where I say the process of becoming who I want to be every single day, that is more fulfilling than my 9 p.m. laptop shut moment. It's a lot better than that. Once I can go hang out with my friends, hang out with you, go to classic rock night, and or watch Star Wars in my room.
Or some random medieval movie.
Right, about... By the way, Netflix, if you're listening, we really liked The King. And if you want to sponsor us, we will be happy to give you more shout-outs. I know that Netflix is still trying to get off the ground, but...
oh, yeah, definitely trying to get off the ground, yeah.
But no, whether it's hanging out at Classic Rock, watching Star Wars, playing Nintendo, playing Xbox, that is all dependent on other factors. I can't rely on that as my happiness all of the time. It's very dependent on when I get my stuff done and, you know, going through my progressions every single day to becoming a better person, better brother, better fiance, better son, better brother to my blood sister, not just fraternal brothers, but, you know, and when I decided to say that happiness not only wasn't necessary, but completely out of my control, that's another thing I learned senior year about myself. That's when my life got better. Why should you expect yourself to be happy all the time? Why should you strive for happiness? Why not strive for something more meaningful, more long-term, more fulfilling, more rewarding in the grand scheme of things?
The only thing that doesn't change is change itself. So, not expecting anything to not be fleeting.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yeah, that's the best way to put it. Not expecting something to not be fleeting is just going to leave you disappointed at times. Even if you hold on to like depression or hold on to a relationship or any of those things, income, a job, if you think that something's going to be permanent, that is when the rug gets slipped out beneath you the fastest.
Okay.
I think. So, where do you think the origins of happiness comes from?
I believe people felt happiness for the first time back whenever that was, whenever your scientific or religious beliefs allow you to, you know, whenever the first human experienced happiness and shared it, it became an addictive cycle of, I want to be happy all the time. Do you remember what it was like drinking the first time? Getting tipsy, getting drunk, that first little bit. Do you remember what that first time was like for you?
I do remember it, yeah.
You didn't necessarily like what you had to go through to get to that feeling. Once you got to that feeling, hey, this is pretty great, right? And I think that once that happened, once that was established, people started to chase it.
I don't think happiness is only for humans, though.
Oh, no.
I mean, I've seen a puppy that's extremely excited to see you when you get home, or your cat.
You know who's not a happy being? That fucking cat right there.
Henny is not a happy cat.
I have never seen a cat so inactive and so disinterested in everything everything. It doesn't matter what I did. I could try to play with her with a pin. I could pick her up and dance with her. I could turn on 30 hours of purring on YouTube to help calm her the hell down.
That was one of the funniest things I've seen in your room, is walk in and it's just... And I'm walking and I'm like, what is going on? And you're like, you're just sad sitting in your chair. Like, I'm trying to make my cat feel happy in her new home.
I'm trying to give her a good environment,
It was pitch black and you're just sitting there glum. It was one of the funniest things. But I think the origins of happiness is a momentary relief for the fear of living.
Fear of living. Here we go.
Well, the fear of what it takes to live. The fear of not living. There we go. The fear of dying. Because before you have conscious beings like ourselves that are able to construct modernity and not have to do all the things that a normal creature in our environment, like, we are abnormal beings in this world, considering that we don't have to live day by day, and we don't have to look for our food and be afraid of when we're going to eat the next day. I mean, that is privilege, and all of humanity is privileged, but also certain countries are more privileged. And with that, we don't really have to live in fear every single day.
No.
And so, with less fear, you don't have to have as much relief against that fear. And so, happiness kind of was like, oh, I'm doing something right. And I think it's probably an evolution tactic of, well, if I'm living in fear and then I get a reward for doing something good, that happiness is a much better habit creator than fear would be. I mean, have you heard some of those studies where they're like, yeah, positive reinforcement versus negative reinforcement. You learn something way faster, build a habit way faster with positive reinforcement.
Yeah, that is not a common theme throughout my life, man.
No?
I played sports.
Well,
I played sports, Landon. Yeah. Negative reinforcement is all I know.
Well, let me introduce you to positive reinforcement.
Let me put it to you this way. If my mom called me up, or one of my baseball coaches, or my father, or any other authority figure, quote, in my life, to call me up and to yell at me about how I'm podcasting so terribly, I'm going to respond to that. Because that's really all I've ever known.
Really?
Yeah, just... You need to do better. You need to strive to be better. You need to be better. You need to get better. Every day, get better, get better, get better. With training for baseball, you get a sense of happiness every time you do something right.
Yeah.
It really is like heroin, because it's just immediate relief. Like, finally, thank Christ I did something right.
A lack of punishment is your reward.
A lack of punishment is my reward.
See, that's how I lived, but it wasn't from outside. It was from inside. So
Oh.
all of high school was, you need to be doing better. And I would punish myself by, like, implementing stress or forcing myself to work harder or stay up later, get less sleep. And it was all, like, internal motivators. And so what my parents had to tell me was just like, hey, look at me in the eyes. We are proud of you. You're doing enough. And I for like 5 years, I couldn't believe them. I don't know why I couldn't believe them, but the idea that I wasn't enough was implanted in my very, like, chest. And I could feel it all the time.
So how did that relate to your daily pursuit of happiness? How did that change you? How did that change your outlook on life?
I don't look for...
Were you looking for happiness back then, is what I'm trying to say.
No.
So you've never looked for it at all?
I looked for confirmation. I looked for... Yeah, I looked for confirmation from the people around me. Hey, you're good enough. Positive reinforcement. That's the only thing that I really strive for. But to do that, I would always ask, how can I be better? So my goal was to get positive reinforcement. And in my head, the way to get positive reinforcement was to ask for all of the negative. So I was like, why am I a bad person? Or why am I failing at this? Or how could I be better? That was what I was always asking to try to get positive reinforcement. But I was asking all the wrong questions. So for multiple years, and mainly in myself, I would be like, hey, why am I terrible? How could I have done this better? Why am I really bad at this? Or I know that I got the best test score, but why did I miss these points? Or how can I do other things better? Or how can I study faster? And it was always you're not as efficient as you possibly could be. The strive for perfection made me realize that happiness and achievement are always fleeting.
I never really associated achievement with happiness and how that's a very temporary thing, but that is a very good point.
Yeah, because when you live day to day on I literally had my entire days planned. I would have even weekends. I had to force myself to schedule times to relax. And so I had to be like, okay, this hour I'm going to relax so I can work even harder after the hour break. And that was the mentality that I had.
I understand it.
And so with that, and it is a very common way to go about schoolwork. Like, it's a very common way to just be like, grind, momentary relief, grind. But at some point, you're burning yourself out, and there's a ratio of working hard and relaxing.
Well, we here at DePaul University know how to work hard and play harder. No, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. I know that grind until you can't, take a break, and get back on the horse.
And that achievement, that momentary, man, I just got that assignment done, that was happiness to me. It was simply a good job, you got something done, and now let's look for something else to get done.
Oh, so the system fed itself.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a cycle of misery with a very small fleeting achievement at the end.
Which, do you feel more satisfied now that you've let that little bit, now that you've let those moments go? Now that you understand what those moments are?
I don't think I'm ever going to be able to let those moments go. Like, it's simply who I am. I'm always going to have that fire in me. I always do. It's something that I'm going to have the advantage of having it with me for my entire life, but also something I'm going to have to deal with for my entire life. I mean, I'm going to have to, on a weekly basis, go, hey, chill the fuck out, man. God damn it. Chill out. And that's what I need to do. And that's what everybody needs to do. And I just know that I struggle with it. And so, yeah, just that achievement and slowly letting go of that such a harsh negative cycle. And I've just had to do some reframing on how I pursue that. It's why I'm still I'm a percussionist, why I'm still a musician, because that is the mindset that makes you really good. And that's similar to how you were talking about your depression earlier. That's how I fed myself. I was like, I am suffering, and me suffering is what's making me the best. And so I associated suffering with my achievement. So if I let go of my suffering, I was afraid that I was going to lose all of the things I'd worked so hard for, and that I wouldn't be able to keep on going if I didn't make myself suffer. So the more that I pressured myself, and the more I made myself feel terrible and stress myself out, the better I thought I was going to be.
That's exactly the same mindset and attitude I had with baseball. The exact same mindset. Because high school sports is a lot about, we're going to break you down, and we're going to build you back up.
Yeah,
and
probably like boot camp for the military.
Without a doubt. And they feed you nothing but negative reinforcement through the majority of the time that you are in your sport. And then you have little sprinkles, little touches, little breadcrumbs, if you will, of happiness, of the recognition, the affirmation, the confirmation, if you will. Hey, nice play out there, Woodsy. Or, hey, good block. Or, hey, way to get that up. Good job, dude. Only a lot more violent and yelling and slapping me and touching me when I didn't really want to be touched. Like, not like that.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
that.
like,
Like
I want
a
to.
hard smack on the back, and you're like, God,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
thanks for the red mark on my back.
And the happiness is over right there.
I don't know if that's happiness, though. I think that's just relief.
Well, in a lot of ways, happiness is relief. Which, as depressing as that may sound, that's how I've come to live. That's how I've learned how to live everyday life. Happiness is relief. Relief is good. Happiness is good. You shouldn't look for it. You don't need it all the time. You should be striving for joy. What makes you joyful? What will always keep you engaged with both your mind and with those around you?
It sounds like we both have a toxic relationship with relief and happiness.
Well, in our defense, Landon, because of our... This is something weird. Liv told me that people give off a scent. People give off biological vibes, if you will.
Yeah.
That match those around them.
You vibe with the people you vibe with because you're similar to them, yeah.
So that means across all spectrums. That goes across mental aspects, physical. I would like to think I look like Sam, at least a little bit. At least a little bit. But I definitely know that Sam, me, you, we all think on similar wave frequencies.
Yeah.
And we all have our own ideas on what the world is, and they all at least a little bit match up. And
when we come together, we form a shared reality.
Yes.
That we have certain principles that we share at the bare minimum.
And I would go as far as to say that the relationships that I've developed here have made me appreciate joy a whole lot more. Because in times of arguments and... how do I say it? When you want to strangle me the fuck out, and when I want to strangle you the fuck out, and we can still hug and be friends, that's joy. I'm not happy when I feel like I want to strangle somebody out. I'm joyful if the person I want to strangle out is someone like you, is someone like Sam, is someone like Liv. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because
even in that moment, even though I'm not happy, I'm appreciative of what I have in that moment.
Like you're striving to be better. And the fact that it's like you're working out kinks in yourself and kinks with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
In that argument. Yeah. That's cool. So do you think that your standards will change with happiness?
I sure hope not. I sure hope not.
You hope not?
I hope not. I hope I learn how to cope with my depression in more healthy ways. I sincerely hope that happiness doesn't eventually dictate my decisions. If I'm just doing things that make me happy all the time, that's not a great relationship I'm cultivating with myself.
Why not? It's not okay to be happy?
It's okay to be happy, but it's not okay to be happy all the time. It's not okay. What, you don't think too much of a good thing is bad? You don't think that you can overdo it in some areas of your life and really mess up other areas of your life? You don't think that you can...
So there's definitely two sides. There's multiple sides. One is you become overconfident, become arrogant, and you mess up somehow because you assume that because you're happy all the time, then you'll be fine forever. And that's, like we said earlier, that... What's the saying? Giants fall the hardest or something?
It makes sense. If they're, 300 feet tall, weigh 2 tons, and just... It's probably going to hurt when you fall over.
Yeah. But the people that stand the tallest fall the hardest, or whatever that saying is. So, the happier you are, in that sense, the taller you are. The bigger your britches are, the bigger you think you are, and that's the harder you fall. But on the other side, happiness isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, if you're happy in life and you've worked your ass off and you're happy to get up in the morning and go to your job, you're happy to take your kids to whatever practices they're going to. Like, two of them need to go to soccer practice, one needs to go to football, whatever they're doing.
Yeah.
But like, being happy and grateful for your life and where you've found yourself, I feel like that's a good thing to have. Because with happiness, I was also told by my parents that money doesn't create happiness.
Okay.
You wake up in the morning and you being happy to go to work and happy about what you're doing on a weekly basis is happiness. You being excited to wake up and go do something. You being excited to work with the people that you work with, or at least provide for your family in the way that you're providing for them. Happiness is a long-term process, and it is fleeting, but you can create a platform where it can prosper better. Like, you can till your soil, and you can't necessarily make sure that your crops are going to be great every year, but you can definitely try to make a good foundation. You've got to prosper whatever you want to prosper. I mean, plant the seeds. Oh man, there's another saying.
Reap what you sow.
Reap what you sow. So if you sow gratitude and hard work into your life, then that's what you'll get from it.
Mm-hmm.
And even if happiness is fleeting, it is worth appreciating. It may not be worth using it as a model for success. Happiness is worth appreciating. And happiness is something that I've grown to enjoy now, simply because ignoring it your entire life isn't going to help you either. Like, thinking that pain and suffering is the only thing that's going to make you a better person is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a balance, like everything.
Yeah, my father has been stressing balance to me recently. He's been telling me, hey, you need to take your schoolwork seriously, and you need to do your internships, and you need to manage baseball. You need to manage your relationships. You need to call me. You need to call your sister. See what else his father demanding of me recently. No, I'm just kidding. But he has been stressing balance. He's been stressing you need to learn how to manage your time. You need to learn how to prioritize yourself a little bit better, which is a very foreign concept to me as a person. I've always been like you. I've always been on the forefront of making myself a better person. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you fall flat on your face. And it's hard to reconcile that fact. It's hard to always be happy. It's hard to strive for happiness if you're constantly letting yourself down.
I have a really cool, it's just a tiny block of wood, and my mom wood burned the front of it for something that she used to always tell me. Practice makes better. Practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes better. And the same thing applies with you as a person. You can always strive to be better, but you're perfect just the way you are. You're perfectly imperfect. And that's one of my favorite things my mom ever told me, because it really helped me to be like, okay, I'm never going to be perfect. I'm going to always give my best, and that's completely fine. I have to love myself for who I am, because who else is going to do that?
Okay. Landon, it is 40 minutes. In order to save me both the time, the stress, and my happiness to edit this, I want to start ending every podcast with a joke. One joke you've never heard that I wrote during the day, just one, just to see if I can get a laugh.
Okay.
I have never, ever looked at a person living in Indiana and thought, yeah, you're killing it. Keep making good decisions, dude.
That hurts. That one hurts. I'm a Hoosier, my guy. You live across the hall from me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that one was a little bit too.
That was a little
too personal.
You literally see me every day.
Just a little too personal. That's okay.
Just a little. It was funny though. It was funny.
I'm glad it was funny. Okay. Let me.
Dude,
run.
You said one.
I said, oh, well, no, you said you didn't like it. You said you didn't. No, I'm just kidding. Nope, can't say that one on air. I'm going to say it in front of a room full of people. Oh my God. Okay, how about this? You ever look at yourself in the mirror and think, oh, that's why they invented clothes?
I think I was around. I think I was around the conversation when, at least you expressed that for the first time, because I made the joke that we're like, okay, we're gonna get Anchor.fm, we're gonna get.
Oh yeah, you were in ultra business mode.
Yeah, and I was like, and we're also, just for shits and giggles, let's get an OnlyFans. And you're like, bro, if we're gonna do one in OnlyFans, we're selling your ass. Not mine.
We are. Like I definitely have the face for podcasting, so you know.
Don't diss yourself like that, my guy.
Landon, I'm arrogant and cocky, like you talked about so many times in this podcast. I gotta knock myself down a few pegs. I gotta have people around me who knock me down a few pegs. I keep you around because you never knock me down, and when you do knock me down, at least it's funny. That's my rule.
I appreciate it.
That's my rule. If it's funny, I'll let it go.
Hey, I try. I've been learning how to make jokes with you and Sam a lot.
Are you learning how to structure them a little bit?
A little bit better. I kind of just said some mean shit. That's kind of just how I started off.
That's how me and Sam got started.
Yeah.
Oh God. Well, folks, next time, Landon and we're going to talk about joy. Because even though we talked about happiness, still found a way to make it bad. But we will be back later this week with Joy, the 5th episode of What Our Parents Said. And Landon, might I say, it has been a very fun experience thus far. And I am really, really happy that we're going to keep doing this.
So am I, man. This is an awesome idea.
Alrighty. Folks, we'll be back sometime. Probably later this week.
Sometime.
Don't get copyrighted. Love you guys. See you next week.